Hello my fellow Homo sapiens and welcome back to the Nerd Rant, which is actually a nerd rant instead of gameplay. For a while I've been obsessed with Disney, particularly the Disney Renaissance, Pixar, and the Pixar theory. I've wanted to do a video related to the topic for a while now, but I didn't know exactly what to make the video about. So today I'm going to be covering the different Disney eras. This video will be a very broad, generalized explanation of each era, but I might do future videos diving into each era. Maybe not every era, but at least a few of them. And as a disclaimer, these eras are not officially recognized by the Disney company themselves. They've been created by the fan base. Although Disney does reference the Disney Renaissance and the Golden Age from time to time, also not everyone calls the different eras by the same name, and sources differ on how many eras there are, but it's usually anywhere from 6 to 9 different eras. The years also may differ a little bit, but tend not to as much. Anyways, let's get into it. So first off, we have the Silent Era, which lasts from 1923 to 1928. This era isn't as referenced as much, which makes sense with how short and insignificant it was. This era's most known works were the Alice comedies, a mix of animation and live action about a girl and her cat, and Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. This era didn't last long, mainly due to advances in technology and the invention of sound cartoons, which fueled the character Mickey Mouse's success in the Golden Era. The Golden Era lasted from 1928 to 1942, with the animated works of Steamboat Willie, the Silly Symphony series, Snow White, Pinocchio, Fantasia, Dumbo, and Bambi. While Disney didn't invent sound cartoons, he did popularize it with the cartoon Steamboat Willie, which was a huge success. He also introduced cartoons with color with the Silly Symphony series, but the biggest animated work by far of this era was Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. This movie is so important because it was the first ever animated full-length movie. It was in color and it had sound. I will save the importance of both Steamboat Willie and Snow White and how they contributed to Disney's success for possibly another video, but just know that Snow White was a huge deal, and Disney is built on the foundations of this movie's success. On the other hand, Pinocchio and Fantasia and Bambi were financial failures when they were first released, most likely due to World War II, which made marketing difficult. Dumbo was more of a success, but that's mainly due to that it costed a lot less to make than the other movies, about as half as it took for Snow White. But this era is known for its movies' later successes rather than box office successes. But with scarce resources and animators lost because of the war, things weren't looking very good for Disney at the end of this era, and here we start the package or wartime era. The package/wartime era. I'm going to be referring to this as the wartime era, which lasted from 1943 to 1949. Anime works from this era, and please forgive me for any mispronunciations. So Dios Amigos, The 30 Caballeros, Make My Music, Fun and Fancy Free, Melody Time, and The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad. If you haven't heard of any of these, don't worry, I haven't really either, besides The 30 Caballeros, but I haven't seen any of them. Most people don't really think much of this era, much like the Silent Era, because of World War II. It was very hard to produce anything, especially feature-length films. So not much happened during this era. I might cover this era more in depth in another video because I am interested in learning more about it, but due to what little we have here, I'm not going to today. But I ended with Disney in the 1950s, badly in need of funds and eager to start a new era, the Silver Era. The Silver Era lasted from 1950 to 1969, producing many animated classics like Cinderella, Alice in Wonderland, Peter Pan, Lady and the Tramp, 101 Dalmatians, The Sword and the Stone, Sleeping Beauty, and The Jungle Book. There were also live-action movies like Treasure Island and Mary Poppins, but more focused on animated movies in this video. Things weren't looking very well for Disney, but luckily Cinderella, which was a classic full-length fairy tale movie was a huge success. The rest of the movies had varying success rates. Not many milestones and animations were made during this era. Just a bunch of really good movies were released until December 15th of 1966, when Walt Disney passed away from lung cancer. His last year at the company were mainly happy ones, with the huge success of Mary Poppins. The last film he worked on was The Jungle Book, and then the last film he gave the green light to was The Aristocrats, but that's not during this era. But The Jungle Book was a huge success. But the company still struggled after Disney's death. Thus began the Bronze Age or the Dark Age. I will be referring to this era as the Dark Age because that's what I've heard it called the most, and it makes the most sense in my mind just because of money stuff and all that. The Dark Age lasted from 1970 to 1988, with animated works like The Aristocrats, Robin Hood, Winnie the Pooh, The Rescuers, The Fox and the Hound, The Black Cauldron, and The Great Mouse Detective, and Oliver and Company. Most of the movies didn't do well in theaters, especially the Black Cauldron, which was a total failure and almost caused Disney to file for bankruptcy. Luckily, though, it did lead us into the Disney Renaissance. Now it's time to talk about the Disney Renaissance, which I'm excited for because I love this era so much. The Disney Renaissance lasted from 1989 to 1999, with the animated works of The Little Mermaid, Rescuers Down Under, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, The Lion King, Pocahontas, The Hunchback of Notre Dame, Hercules, Mulan, and Tarzan. And this era is so influential to Disney. It set the requirements for what we now know as the Disney musical with the help of Howard Ashman, and it made Disney a big name in animation again. At some point, I might do a video on Howard Ashman's importance and influence on Disney, but for now, just know that he's a big deal and practically a musical genius. Anyway, most of the movies in this era were a huge success. The Rescuers Down Under didn't do as well as the other movies in the box office, probably because of Home Alone was also in theaters at the time. And while The Hunchback of Notre Dame and Tarzan didn't initially do well in theaters, they did gain more success later. The movie Tarzan was the last movie in this time period. Then, with the turn of the century, Disney began a new era with experimenting with new styles of movies. The millennial/experimental era lasted from 1999 to 2008, with the animated works of Fantasia 2000, Dinosaur, The Emperor's New Groove, Atlantis: The Lost Empire, Lilo and Stitch, Treasure Planet, Brother Bear, Home of the Range, Chicken Little. How is that Disney, by the way? Meet the Robinsons, and that's Disney too for some reason. For some reason I could have sworn both of those movies were DreamWorks. Maybe Universal, but that's less likely. And also they made both in this era. The movies like Dinosaur, Atlantis, and Emperor's New Groove did have a little success, but did not compare at all to the success of the Renaissance. Lilo and Stitch, despite how cheap it was, did have a huge success, but it wasn't enough to pull Disney back up again, because right after that, oh my gosh, Treasure Planet was released, and it did not go well. It did not do well. It did worse in the box office than Black Cauldron. The rest of the movies in this era didn't do well either, the worst of which being Home of the Range. I mean, it's an odd movie, but it's not the worst in my opinion. That would be Chicken Little. I quite like Home of the Range, actually. But then Princess and the Frog was released, and it started a new era for Disney. The revival era lasted from 2009 to the present day, I guess. I'll get back to why why I'm hesitant on saying present day later. This era has animated works of The Princess and the Frog, Tangled, Wreck-It Ralph, Frozen, Big Hero 6, Zootopia, Moana, and I'm also going to add Frozen 2 in here. And since these movies have been so recent, I don't think I really need to go into detail about these movie successes. They've all done decently in the box office, the best of which being Frozen by a long shot. And here is where I would love to say that I'm excited to see what's next, but I'm really reluctant about that. This also goes back to why I think that this era might be over, mainly because, if you haven't noticed, Disney has been going for these big cash grab live action movies. Well, quote unquote live action movies. And yes, I'm referring to Lion King. And most people don't seem to be liking them. Mulan was recently released, as you all know, and well, just look at Mulan reviews on YouTube. Most of them aren't good. Shaperless Productions and Cell Specs both did really good videos reviewing this movie. And then Ziran J. Zhao, I don't know how to pronounce her name, but here's a screenshot of the video. Did a video covering the historical accuracies of the movie, and the fact that she was so mad at the movie that she created a whole YouTube channel just to make a video about it speaks for itself. And I have respect for that. Like, dang, like, that's a total power move. I didn't hate the movie myself, but I do see where Shaperless and Cell Specs are coming from. And I completely agree with, I'm just going to call her by her last name Zhao, because I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. Disney also recently released The One and Only Ivan, which isn't the best movie, but it wasn't the worst. It was okay. I still prefer the book, as I usually do with most things. The point of what I'm saying here is that I don't know how Disney's going to pull itself out of this one. Mainly because I can't see the future. But since they're a multi-billion-dollar company, they're going to pull it off somehow. But I'm not sure how. But that's all I have for today. Thank you for watching this video. I've been wanting to make a video like this for a long while, and hope I can make more. It takes a lot of time, so... but anyway, I'll see y'all next time. Bye. Now, mind you, this poster is weird enough already, but forget about organs. Where are her ribs? She don't have any. Like, how does she walk upright? Never mind be able to survive being, like, whipped around up on the trees by her waist. Like, what? What? And then there's this. Do I need to say more? I mean, it's not, oh my. Oh my. That's all I need to say.